Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on WION. My name is Mohammed Saleh. The White House this week has announced that it is halting certain weapon shipments to Ukraine. Now, according to reports that have emerged, what is being halted includes the Patriot Interceptor missiles, the howitzer munitions, and certain other kinds of missile and grenade launchers. Especially at a time when Russia has intensified its drone and missile attacks in Ukraine. Because remember, just last week, Russia staged one of the biggest aerial attacks on Ukrainian cities, firing more than 500 missiles and drones in a single day. Now, the American Department of Defense has come out and said that this measure of halting certain deliveries of weapon systems to Ukraine has been done keeping America's interests first. So the obvious question is this: is Donald Trump now trying to wind down the Ukraine war? Or, as some reports have indicated, the United States wants to halt the delivery of its Patriot Interceptors to Ukraine because its own Patriot reserves are running low. Now, to discuss this and more, we're joined on this broadcast by retired Lt Col Davies. He's a military expert and also the host of Daniel Davies Deep Dive on YouTube. Colonel Davies, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION.
Always my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So this Ukraine war has now gone on for well over 3 years. Now, the reports that have come out from the White House say that certain weapons shipments that include Patriot Interceptors, amongst other munitions, have been halted in their deliveries to Ukraine. How do you read this? What is actually happening here?
Yeah, I think that what you're seeing is the results of the U.S. spreading itself too thin. I mean, we've been given for now nearly 3.5 years, actually longer than that, even before the current war started between Russia and Ukraine, all kinds of ammunition, certainly artillery shells, air defense weapons, even long-range missiles, and other kinds of artillery pieces. But this is showing the limits of what we've had. Now, I've been concerned about this for a time because our industrial capacity is not sufficient to be able to maintain this over a long period of time, so still give large amounts of ammunition to other people and still maintain enough on our own stockpile for American national defense. Now you add on top of that we have been given a lot more to Israel in its conflicts, both with Hamas and also with Iran in the north, and you see that the amount of ammunition we have on those critical areas is now below the threshold that we need for our own national defense. And that, I think, was an alarm bell that the Pentagon sounded and that the White House finally said, okay, we're going to have to stop this to somebody, and Ukraine drew the short straw.
I think that's a very crucial point that you made about the American-owned reserves that seem to be depleted because of the many wars that are raging, which the Americans have in one way or the other helped Ukraine and the state of Israel, that the wars have been ongoing. But the question that I want to ask you is also this, because Donald Trump had said that he wants to stop this war that is ongoing in Ukraine. He wants to strike and bring about a ceasefire as soon as he can. And the Ukrainians are saying by halting these weapons deliveries, the American president is actually strengthening the hand of the Russian president here. Is Donald Trump now not sending these weapons deliveries because he wants to bring an end to this war? Or is it because America at this moment seems to have run low on these very crucial Patriot Interceptors?
I wish the case was that this was a conscious decision and that it was signaling that, but I rather doubt that it is. I think that it's just a reaction to our own inventories here because Trump has been saying, obviously, since 2023, when he was running for president, that he was going to end this war in a day and all that stuff that we've talked about a lot. And he hasn't taken action on any of that. Even though he said in April, we are days away from walking away if we don't get a deal, he didn't walk away. Then in the next month, he changed it to, well, about 2 more weeks, and then that came and gone. So he's had many opportunities, if that was his intent, to taper the United States off of it. But now that I think that reality is just striking in, that you have a physical incapacity to continue on, and so they have to pick something, and it's going to be the Ukraine side. Now, that may be the result of it. They may end up saying, okay, well, if we don't even have enough Patriot Interceptors to limit the Russian attacks in the air, then they're going to have to find some other course of action because, I mean, you just pointed out that Russia's biggest air attack of the war so far, that keeps going on. They keep on having these new biggest wave attacks. That will certainly continue on and may even accelerate if Russia believes that the air defense capacity is going to shrink even lower. So we'll see how it ends up working out. But I don't think it was a conscious decision. I think that's just how it worked out.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned something very interesting here because Donald Trump had been repeatedly saying that if Ukraine does not strike a deal with Russia, then the United States will, of course, walk away from backing the Ukrainians in their war effort. But the fact that Donald Trump has been in office for about 6 months now, you know, an assessment needs to be made about the American president's policy here because he had said that he wants to end the war, but he hasn't taken any conscious decision except for perhaps talking about it. What do you think is preventing the American president from, you know, bringing about an end to this war? Or is it a decision that is simply not his to make?
Well, it is within his power and his purview as President of the United States. Most definitely it could be, and I've been advocating that it should be. But unfortunately, he's simply, like I said, he's talked about a lot of these things and put seeming dates and deadlines on the table and then walked right past them and never done anything. And then at this NATO summit, you had Zelensky still talking about beating Russia and defeating them. And the NATO countries themselves said that NATO membership is still on the table for, it's inevitable, as a matter of fact, the way they put it, which is completely against everything Trump has said. And yet he took no action against that. He didn't refute it, et cetera. So it's unclear what his actual red lines, so to speak, within his own mind are in terms of this war. But what is very clear is that he has taken no action with the leverage he has to bring it to an end. So it's just kind of drifting forward. And now we see it's running into the realities of physical constraints of ammunition.
Right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Colonel Davies, for joining us with that perspective there.
It was my pleasure.